Good morning, everyone. It's quite the change in perspective for me. We're going to start by doing the Bible reading. And I'd like to point out there's just a minor typo. It's not Galatians 6:14, it's 6:1 through 4. Thank you, Suzanne, for working so very hard. But here we go. Brothers and sisters, if someone is caught in a sin, you who live by the Spirit should restore that person gently. But watch yourselves. You may also be tempted. Carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. If anyone thinks they are something when they are not, they deceive themselves. Each one should test their own actions. Then they can take pride in themselves alone, without comparing themselves to someone else. Now, I chose this verse because I grew up in this church, and the message to me was always very clear about how to be a good Christian. It was always, walk the walk, talk the talk, do the things the Bible talks about. And so that's what this sermon is about today. To me, this passage is a clear call to action and instruction on how to do it. In the first verse of this reading, God calls to us to help our lost family and to bring them back into the love of the Lord. In the same verse, we are warned of two things: to not be tempted and to do so gently. The first warning is clear. Do not stray from God's path. It is plainly said. But the second warning passes by quickly. It is contained in the single word, gently. The verse would have made sense without that word. Therefore, by including this word, much is implied. God calls us not to convert, but to do so with love, kindness, and compassion. The next verse is instruction on how that love should be expressed: to carry the burdens of others. The meaning of this verse is clear to me. We are not to help each other where we are, We are to help each other where we are, not to cast judgment, not to condemn, for not being pious enough, and it is certainly not our place to determine who is worthy of saving. It is all of us. Verse 3 again is a warning, not to deceive ourselves. If ever we find that we are looking down our noses or refusing to help or to serve a person, we would find ourselves in sin. This verse indicates to me that it is not our domain to do these things. For if you were to think you are worthy of judging others, it is you who are being deceived. The final verse offers guidance on how to walk the righteous path. We are to test ourselves, and in the context of this passage, we know how. Ask these questions of yourself. Are you being gentle? What would someone make of your actions? Would I appreciate what I'm doing? This verse says to test ourselves, but also not to compare ourselves to others. This leads me to ask how can someone test themselves if they are to only take pride in their own actions, while at the same time not making comparisons to others? It all seems paradoxical, but if we consider a change in perspective, it begins to make sense. If we consider how our actions would make us feel if they were taken upon us, this verse becomes crystal clear. Treat others the way you want to be treated. And as sure as the sun rises and the rain falls, the golden rule shows up in Scripture, just like pi in mathematics or carbon in chemistry. I often worry I'm not doing enough. I wake up most mornings, putter around till work, and then come home after a long day and go to bed. But I felt two things lately that have really eased my anxiety with this. I felt called to action and reassurance through the will of the Lord. At work, I recently became a union steward, and I feel pride in that. Every time someone needs something done, they come to me, and I get to help them. I get to fulfill the word of the Lord. This Sunday, today, There's a coworker that would have been forced to work mandatory overtime. Last week he was made to work mandatory overtime, and he missed his children performing in church. And he was very upset about that. But this Sunday, I got to help him, and he is at home spending time with his family. I felt peace when I found this verse. Finding this caused me to reflect on the actions we've taken as a church, putting fruit trees in public spaces, letting children, or making it possible for children to play on our land with the basketball courts, and so many other things. The shoebox Christmas gifts, and much, much more. And I sat back to reflect on these actions. I knew we were fulfilling God's plan. I know we are fulfilling God's plan. And I'm very proud of this church for that. And if you'll forgive me, I know pride can be sinful, but I think it's warranted to take a step back and appreciate that we are a small but mighty group that, despite being few in number, really truly live up to the word of the Lord, I think. And I'm really proud of that. I'm proud to be part of this church. That was all I have written, but short sermon. I love you guys. I want to thank you for the support that everyone gives and the community that we've built here. It's really something special. And, I look around to the United States as it is today, and I worry. So many churches preach a message of loving the Lord, and then their members leave, and they'll pass a poor person on the street, or they'll call another person a slur, or they'll, kick their son or daughter out for being gay. But this verse to me clearly says it is not our place to do those things. We should love our sons and daughters. We should love our neighbors. We should love the poor. And I want to appreciate everyone here for being a good example for that. So, thank you very much. It was a short but sweet sermon, I hope.